That's definitely what it is, and for me, this change of the mindset, like making this change, be a shift in the mindset, is going to help people to really go there because they're going to see that the long term results and the long term benefits are way more than just staying in their comfort zone. But let's talk about some impossible stories, man. I mean, I don't know if you recall some. Let's talk about that. I'm really curious. I'm sure that people want to hear that. Do you have something in mind? Some impossible story you can recall, yours or maybe someone else's?
Well, I'm thinking about one of my first coaching clients who um, was in a more kind of conventional job.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first times we talked, um, we weren't even really talking about coaching yet. I was just kind of getting a sense of where she was and all this stuff. And she she had written this story for herself that I am making as much money as I can possibly make at any job. Uh, I don't like my job, but if I can just make it 10 more years, then I can quit my job and do what I want.
Wow.
And what I said to her was, what if you could leave your job, make more money doing something that you liked a lot
Yeah.
more aligned to your purpose, more aligned, just felt better. Like what if you could do that? And that hadn't even occurred to her as a possibility. And so there was something about when she saw that as something that was actually possible, she had another job in 10 months. And it was all those things.
Wow.
More not only more base pay, but it was with a startup and she got equity on top of that. And so when the company went public 3 years later, she had this uh, nice nest egg that happened. She was way more engaged in that. And it all like it of course it wasn't impossible. It happened, but it looked impossible to her at the beginning. And it was only when her her perspective of what was possible changed. And when her perspective of what was possible changed, she was suddenly able to effortlessly create this thing that she had thought was impossible.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the story. I'm gonna give you two, three stories from my life, and just because I got excited about it. So the first one was, I remember I always believed. I mean, that honestly everything is possible if you want it. I mean, this is my quote for life, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna keep going with that. So I was when I was finishing my education, my bachelor. I was not studying a lot. I mean, I was going around having fun in my bachelor and stuff. And then no one was thinking that I can do something about it. Create some job and opportunities and stuff, because it was like this guy, he's just having a lot of fun, but that's it. And then I'm going to the last year to. It was actually in US. I was in this brigade, like work and travel in US from a Bulgarian company. Um, it happened to meet a person who decides to open this kind of company in Bulgaria.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we got friends and became friends and stuff. He came back, he opened it, but then we had 1 2 years we haven't seen each other, and then I decided I want to start working something in Bulgaria. I just decided that okay, I'm gonna do
Hmm.
it, and I'm going there. And I talked to the guy and I want to start working. He said I cannot pay you anything, but give you that you can be in the office, and as many people you sign up. It's a new office, no one knows it, but yeah. So what I did is I started working without any payment for in this job, and then this office. I got so excited. I was very excited about the job, and I signed up more people to all the other offices together. I almost
Wow.
not something like this. It was like maybe a small difference, but something like this.
Hmm.
And and he got really excited about this, and then 6 months later he decides to promote me as a sales manager and something like chief operation officer in the company. Company grew, became nine different towns in Bulgaria, and he's saying to me, man, if you just continue working for me, you can become a CEO of the company. I was 23 years old at the time,
Wow.
and at this time, man, people who were my age, they couldn't find a job. Not
Yeah.
to mention to go on and create something with that. And people who are studying like crazy, people who are like, really focused on their career and how they're gonna make it happen all these 4 years in their bachelor. And someone who didn't give a shit for anything like this, he just finished education and creates that. And
Yeah.
everyone was like, what happened there?
Uh-huh.
And I think 100% the reason for that, I put in this belief that when you decide something, you can create everything.
Yeah.
No matter what people think, nothing. You just do
Right.
and go and do it.
Right. Yeah, there's something about that creative energy that when you focus and you put it in a particular direction. And I do think, to pick up on some of your words, I think the fact that you didn't give a shit really helped, because it makes it's so much cleaner. Like when we can just like do stuff and say, yeah, if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I'll figure out the next thing, right? Which
Yes.
is always true, which is what we always do. But we create so much resistance in ourselves that turns into pressure. It's like, oh, I've got to do this right, or this will happen, or what if I mess up? And no, there's no, I don't think there's a, I don't, that's one thing that I don't think actually exists. Like messing up, failure.
Oh,
No, it's
you
just like,
mess up on
hey,
your
I did something
expectations.
and I learned something, and now I'm going to do something else. I'll learn something from that, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely the you're connected to what you want. You are committed to it, and as I said, yes, you said my words like that. You don't give so much. You don't get so serious about it,
Yeah.
too serious about it. You just play with it. You just play a game with it.
Yeah, and I hope you don't mind, because I know a little bit of that story from conversations you and I have had, Dimi.
Yeah,
The thing that I love most about that story isn't
yeah.
what you just shared. It's
Okay.
that you knew enough about yourself
Yeah.
that when he offered that to you, you said no.
Yes. I said no. I
Yeah.
said no. Do you know why? Because you know why. I mean, I told you because that was not me,
Yeah.
and I was okay with that.
Right.
I was
Right.
okay with that, and then actually, the next thing which happened there, I decided to go to study English. I haven't studied English before, and I got the exam. I prepared myself for it. No one, again, the people who are like teachers said, "Oh, that's not possible. You cannot do that. I cannot
Mm.
help you because you don't have the level of language." I said, okay. I said, I just said to the teacher, "Give me the materials. I'm gonna prepare myself. If you don't want to prepare me, I'm gonna get the exam."
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the same mindset, and it's just okay. You don't believe in me, but I believe in myself. I can make it happen.
Right. Right.
and and I think this thing, as you said, is very important, man. It's just it is important to have this trust
Right.
that not only in yourself, but it's again in yourself, but in the universe, that you just take the first step and universe has your back, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in 2016, I mean, I had just seen this small town in Colorado where I now live. I had seen it like July 4th weekend of 2016, and had visited. And I remember my wife saying, she had been coming to this town for a few years and really had kind of fallen in love with it. It's 7,000 people. It's kind of nestled in the shadow of this beautiful mountain, Mount Sopris. And um, she asked, could you see yourself living here someday? And I said, well, yeah, I could see myself living here someday, but as long as I'm at this particular company, I'm in Boston every other week. This place is 3 hours from a major airport. There's just no way it could happen. And then a month later, that company laid me off. And
Wow.
and Like it was just the series of coincidences that happened over the next year to make everything fall into place. And then the strange thing was, so I had this idea that I wanted to be a coach. I didn't really have many examples of people who made a full-time living coaching. You know that whole saying about burning the bridges,
Mm-hmm.
or burning the ships, right? Burning the
Yeah.
ships.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't burn any bridges, thankfully, but I burned a lot of ships
Mm-hmm.
because I moved from Washington, D.C., where there are all these big employers that I could have potentially interviewed with and found another job and all that. Moved across the country to Carbondale, Colorado, a town of 7,000, no major employers here. The only plan that I had was I'll become a coach. And there was something about having no other option. I think many people would have told me, what are you doing? Do you know what the odds are of you actually making that work? But I just believed I could make it work. And
And you.
it took a little longer than I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's worked. And so that's another impossible story. And it's more
It
like
is.
it
It is,
didn't,
man.
on the inside, it didn't feel impossible at all. But, outside looking in, there were definitely some moments where, I mean, I remember some kind of difficult conversations I had with my wife, like, at what point do you give up on this?
Mm.
And that's a hard one.
It is hard one, especially when is coming, from your wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was having this same kind of conversation with myself, but I didn't,
Yeah.
it's like, I still think I can make this work.
And what helped you to still think about this? That you can make it work.
Well, I'm trying to think of my different years. So the first, I was like 3 years in, I finally made enough money that I thought, yeah, I can make this work.
Mm.
That was 2019.
Mm.
So beginning of 2020, I had a couple renewals, was feeling pretty good. COVID
Mm.
hits.
Mm.
And for the next 4 months, I had a lot of conversations with people, but nobody hired me because everyone just panicked at the beginning of COVID,
Yeah.
right? The world was ending. We didn't know what was going on. But then around September of 2020, um, people started hiring me, and it made me realize, that one of the things you said about you just don't know what's going to happen, right? You just kind of go in a direction and see what happens. And so by the end of 2020, I had made 50% more than I did the year before.
Wow.
And I thought, well, if I can do that in a pandemic, I can definitely make this work. And then there were some things that happened because I had enough income from the business to like
Mm.
refinance my mortgage into, I mean, that looks like the most brilliant thing ever right now, to like refinance my mortgage into a 3% fixed 30-year mortgage that, no one can ever take away from me. I mean, that
Mm.
just, there were just some really practical things that just made everything feel a lot more stable and a lot more doable and a lot more supportable than at the
Mm.
beginning, where I really was just kind of out on a limb trying to make stuff work.
Yeah, and actually, me and you, we are two people who come from different places, but both of us could stay resiliently through this hardships because we've been. You said 30 years in
Yeah.
corporate, and I
Yeah.
haven't been in corporate. My company, I wouldn't say it corporate, and for me, was I was doing my life. I was this person who was always believing that I can do it myself and I can make it happen, and I don't need to be somewhere. It was hard for me, it was hard for you in different way, but both of us kept going.
Right. Well, and
no matter what it
you're a
was.
lot faster learner than I than I was, Dimi, because I kind of it was this both and for me for a lot of, like I was willing to take certain risks, and I was always in roles that were, like kind of on the what's next and how do we help our clients, predict the future. And so there was this aspect of me, but there was also like this safe corporate shell that I built around me, Um, yeah, and it took a while for me to. I mean, I never voluntarily stepped out on my own. There was a moment where I like knew it was the right decision, but that was because the choice was either go out on my own or go back into that.
Yeah.
Like I never just voluntarily left that.
Yeah, but you made a choice again. I mean, you
Right.
could come back, you could decide to continue, but you took it as okay. Now I have a choice. Maybe it
Yeah.
was the choice which was forced by the company or something, but you made a choice to keep to go in your direction. You took it as a sign from the